Hey everyone, it is Wednesday. That means it's Hump Day. And you know what happens on Hump Day? It's Humpday Happy Hour with Dentist in the Know. This is your backstage pass for current trends, politics, and education in the dental world. It is live, and it is over a cocktail out of my favorite drinking vessel in the entire world. And I am so excited to be with you tonight. I'm excited because I'm with two of my best friends in the world. All three of us are together tonight. And we have an amazing guest who's going to be talking digital dentistry today. Tonight's show, by the way, is brought to all of you by our great friends and educational partners at Align Itero. And we're just so excited for this show because we have so many things to talk about from a digital perspective. You know, I've kind of gone down this path now, and it's like every time I learn something, I learn 5 other things I need to learn. So really excited for tonight. But as you all know, I'm joined by my two friends, Dr. Chad Duplantis and Dr. Jennifer Bell. The three of us together are the Dentist in the Know, and we are all educators, we are all dentists, and we are all business owners. And together we have one job. It's to bring all of you in the know. So let's bring my good friends up if they care to join me. Maybe they want this to be a solo show tonight. I don't know. I'm bringing Chad up. I'm bringing Jennifer up.
Why does he
I'm
do
bringing
that?
Jennifer up. No, you can't do that to me tonight.
I was trying to add at the same time. I was just seeing how long it would take you to actually add us, and you know.
Yeah. This is your modus operandi.
Yeah, it's the immaturity in me.
Yeah,
And I'm the blonde one.
yeah. She's just along for the ride.
Yeah.
You're probably actually the mature one of the bunch, JB.
Yeah, that doesn't mean I'm the smart one.
Well, I think
It doesn't.
Yeah, you know, you might have us in both of those categories, actually.
We won't even bring up looks.
Yeah. Yeah, this is really going down in flames fast for us.
Yeah.
Chad.
But I'm really glad y'all could come on my show tonight. So everybody, thanks so much for coming out.
Yeah, you're welcome.
JB and Friend Show.
I
feel that.
How's your reno going?
It is like it's on schedule. Let's put it that way. But
that's one positive.
And it was very well thought out, but it's moving pieces. You know, all the furniture out of the ops, and then that weekend back into the ops, and then all of the furniture out of the offices, and then back into the offices. And so we're on the final leg. We got, you know, a little bit more paint to do. But it's like every weekend there's an added stress because they work Thursday through Sunday, which has been really cool. And I mean, we've been able to work every Monday without a hiccup. But I'm going to Nashville this weekend to visit our son, and I won't be there on Sunday night to start moving stuff back. So hopefully, you know, I have some team members that'll go up on Sunday and help with that.
Right.
And, you know,
if you don't call my team, let me tell you something. My group had my back, man. I was in Europe and they made that whole thing happen. Hey, my team, if you're out there listening, and I hope you are, I love you guys. You guys did a jam up job and they were awesome. Like, I came back and I was like, I can't believe you did all this without me. Like, amazing.
That's
so
awesome.
I bet you'll get the same thing, Chad.
Yeah, our whole team has been very, very, very beneficial throughout this process. They've been really, I mean, it's frustrating for all of us at times, but they've been very understanding. They know that we're doing it for the better of the practice, and it's just been, they've all jumped in and done what they needed to when they needed to. So I have to commend them as well.
I think you should do the news because nobody really cares about our problems.
Yeah, I think that's a fair statement. I'm not sure anybody cares about the dental news problems either, but we still put it out there every week.
We still gonna put that out there.
We still do it every week solidly without care.
Go get him, JB.
Go get.
Well, thank you. I appreciate the vote of confidence here. So I have to say, one interesting article that came out this week kind of touched close to home, actually. It was a report that almost 30% of dentists in the US currently in the last year have dropped one network. And I kind of started to get that feeling. You read enough forums, you kind of watch enough things on different social media channels, et cetera. And you're like, I think there's something maybe brewing. It seems like a lot of people are starting to move in that direction. And then the ADA put out their dental health statistics, which they do pretty frequently. And this particular one cited that almost 36% had left a network within the last 12 months. So I do think that there's a bit of an uptick in doctors having to make some pretty difficult decisions about whether or not they can continue to stay in network and take the reimbursement rates that are being provided to them in exchange for the cost of doing business of dentistry. I myself have been going through something very similar and having those really difficult discussions with patients. But at the end of the day, we do have to run at least a profitable business to continue to pay payroll, pay our vendors, and keep the lights and doors open. And so it's really important that, we have these open and honest conversations with patients. And I'll be really frank in doing that. Patients have actually been fairly understanding. I think they get the reality of the dental insurance world and what we're currently up against, both from a patient and consumer side and from an insurance side and from a practitioner side. I think we're all three parties sort of trying to work cohesively together, but maybe not with always the same missions or goals. And so sometimes there's tension. But it was interesting to maybe have validation that many of our colleagues are going through the same. Another interesting statistic that kind of came from that, there is a pretty solid consistency that almost all DSOs in corporate dentistry groups, almost all of them take some amount of insurance. A good percentage take in excess of 5 plans. And then as you move into small group practices and private practitioners, you see that percentage go up 22%, 30% of solo practitioners are out of network for certain companies or don't take insurance at all. So there's still a pretty decent percentage in the solo practice world of practitioners not participating in insurance. So I thought that was pretty interesting. This one kind of caught me off guard because I wasn't really expecting this particular story. So a Maryland dental practice has been fined $70,000 for failure to provide access to patient records in a timely fashion. The request came in around April of 2019. Again, in June of 2019, the practice didn't provide records until around May of 2022. And so they were cited for a violation from the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services Office for Civil Rights. And the tune of that fine is $70,000. Now, all I kept thinking when I was reading this first was, oh, shoot, did it go to like the spam box? You have your master email account for your practice. Many things go into that master account. Did the spam filter pick it up, put it somewhere where it wasn't supposed to go? Then did it come down to one employee doing the one thing that they were asked to do and then maybe failed to do it, didn't comply, or just didn't prioritize that as something that was important, and so ultimately didn't adhere to the request? Either way, the dentist is now being cited for that particular value. And so let that be a lesson for the rest of us that there certainly is a bit of a watchdog when it comes to these patient requests for records. If they want them, regardless of the point and regardless of the reason, we have to provide those in a timely fashion. Or you may also be getting a little visit from the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services Office for Civil Rights, which I don't think any of us would want anytime soon. And with that, that's the news.
You were talking about the insurance companies, and we were talking before about some companies with some interesting scenarios that have played out this week, but
Mhm.
I did read that one of the large insurance companies has laid off several reviewers. And
That's
so,
also dentists,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
Yeah.
but it also is interesting because, I wonder how much how much of that is truly due to profit diminishing, or how much of that is truly due to what AI is doing in the insurance review process.
Do you think, hypothetically speaking, that they're replacing some of that review process with AI?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I think so too.
Absolutely. I think that's one of the biggest reasons that dentists should get AI, is because it at least it helps you validate with the insurance company, and if they're using it, then by all means we should be using it. So I've been hearing since before I got into AI, for diagnostic interpretation, that insurance companies were using it. And so I wonder, I think that I think there will always be the need for human reviewers, but I think there's going to be the need for much, much less as we go on. So I think this is probably the first of many insurance companies that will be making changes.
Yeah, if you could offset that with AI and at least do your first round, like any PA, any bite wing coming through, and you could run round one through an AI sieve, then you would really only need dental reviewers for repeat appeals or repeat requests. And so it definitely moves it up to where they would only be reviewing
It
0.2% of claims or, whatever, as
absolutely.
opposed to
I
10%
think
of
that
claims.
hit the nail on the head with this. Yeah, there is no doubt that AI is what is moving into that space and saving them a
Mhm.
ton of money.
Say yeah, and well, I mean, let's table this because we have Mike Buckner with Pearl coming on in a couple of
Yeah.
weeks, and I think that this is just a great point of conversation, in that. But it's really crazy. So just thought I'd bring that up. But
You're
great news
crazy,
segment.
man. You're crazy. I
I
like
mean,
you, but you're crazy.
freaking nuts, man, nuts.
Guys,
Yeah.
Yeah,
you're not being
Sorry.
very polite.
We got off on a movie tangent
yeah.
It's
like we do.
time.
Okay, it is time. Who's going to introduce our guest?
I will.
Yeah, I
Well,
think
I
you
think
should.
you should. I'm really excited for this because I have opened up Pandora's box in the digital world.
I
And
want to hear more.
yeah. I mean, it's every time I go down one rabbit hole, I'm like, wow, I got so much more I need to learn. But it's exciting too,
Right?
because even a guy my age can do it.
Well, we are living in a world of fools.
How deep
I
is your
just hate
love,
him so
Dad?
much right now.
Okay.
I'm telling you, I just want to start singing.
I hate him so much.
All right. JB, introduce our guest so we don't have to go through this
I
anymore.
would love to.
Yeah.
So Lovedeep and I had an opportunity to hang out together in Vancouver. I can't believe it was this year because it feels like a lifetime ago, but it was just 6 months ago, oddly. And I had a chance to meet her because we have a mutual friend who supports many of the lecturers and speakers with the line. And so I had an opportunity to spend just a few hours with her. And guys, like, she's a real deal. First off, she's incredibly kind and humble about what she's doing on a daily basis. She's very driven, has a very clear vision for what she wants. She's a mom and a wife, managing and balancing all of those things at the same time. But she's also lifting up other women and other clinicians in Canada specifically in the digital world to get them to engage and to use the technology to better their clinical outcomes for patients as well through the Women in Digital Dentistry program that has really taken off in Canada and lifting up a lot of female doctors to give them opportunities to engage restoratively driven and aligner driven outcomes within their digital platform. But I would like to say she's a phenomenal clinician, a great friend, and we're just really happy to have her on tonight. She could talk a little bit about the insurance world in Canada, because that's been kind of a big change in the last little bit as well. And we can dive a little bit into that because we see it from the US lens, but Canada's dealing with their own challenges as well. So Lovedeep, thank you so much for being on tonight.
Oh, thank you so much, Jennifer. You are too kind. Thank you, Jeff.
Did
Thank
it
you,
sound like
Chad.
there were 1,000 people in the audience, like all at once? Yeah.
We need a applause soundtrack.
We do. We need
We
the
do.
applause.
Yeah, we do.
We also need a laugh track for when Tad tells a joke.
Yeah.
Or like a
Yeah, we need to put some sound effects there, right?
Yeah.
yeah, exactly.
Sure,
Exactly.
sure.
Well, welcome to the show. It's
That
really
is
great to have you.
Definitely
Thanks
the
for doing
only thing that's missing about this platform, other
Yeah,
than talent and interesting things to say. It's just
I was just
soundtrack.
listening to you guys, and I'm just, mind's blown. Like, you guys are so smart. You guys are so humble. And you know what? Very entertaining. So yeah, I think a little bit of sound effects. That's it. You got
That
to
would
cover
be it.
Right?
Yeah.
That's been the missing piece. And now we know. It's been
I am
confirmed.
so glad I was here, part of this when you guys discovered the missing piece. That's it. I brought it full circle.
For one day, I got to have I had figured out how to program the bad word, like soundtrack. So then I just fake said bad words and would just keep pushing it, and beep out like an entire sentence. So maybe that's why we don't have it anymore. Some people just can't be trusted.
She was fake, fake saying bad words, but she's got a mouth like a truck driver. If you knew her, you would know it.
You can say an entire sentence in bad words. You might be able to.
Yeah, we said something a few weeks ago, and I'll never forget. Our guest goes, "Wait a second, nobody told me we could cuss here." I'm like, go for it, man.
I know. That should be one thing you should put in the email, right? Like,
you can drink, you can cuss. If you want to smoke cigars, we don't really care.
We're going to have one of those explicit stickers on the podcast.
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Just don't try to sell me a timeshare, and everything else is fair game.
Yeah.
He already owns one. He can't possibly
I already got suckered into that. So. All right, let's talk dentistry.
All right. So Jennifer was mentioning about the insurance. So we have been very fortunate in Canada that all the insurances here actually do recognize fee-for-service. So all provinces, so we have provinces instead of states, and so our provincial association, dental associations, set up the fee guides for the province for that year. And then they adjust it every year based on inflation and other things. And so we get a little bit of a fee increase, usually February of every year. And we charge copay to the patients, and we haven't had really a lot of trouble. We do have Medicare, where patients that are either on disability or low-income families, the provinces have a dental program for them, and where the fees are subsidized, and most dentists do accept it because you want to help the community as well. If someone's on disability, there is a reason, right? And you have an option of charging them the difference of the fee guide if you choose so. It's not forbidden. Recently, our government just passed a federal bill now where there is a Canadian dental plan, and that's where there's a lot of a little bit of mistrust, skepticism, because we as dentists were not consulted. Our dental associations were really not consulted as much. And so we were still kind of trying to figure out what this is going to be. Patients are calling us. We have no idea because it is a plan that the politicians built. At this point, they're saying that we can still charge copay and we can still go by a provincial fee guide. But there are rumors out there that they might at some point say we can't charge copay. And if that's the case, what would other private, insurances do? And so there is a little bit of that fear right now in dentistry. And, you all know, post-pandemic, it hasn't been easy. It hasn't been easy to run your practice. Especially as a practice owner, you want to support your staff. Everybody is suffering. And so you want to really make sure that your good staff who has been there with you for this long, you're supporting them, you're providing them with all the support, financial and otherwise. And cost of doing business has just gone up, right? So these are a little bit of tough, unsure times. So we are really, holding a breath and trying to just chug along, and we'll see what happens, down the road. I've been doing it for 20 years. So for me, it's like my practice is established, word of mouth practice. I'm a solo practitioner. I have a very small practice, 4 chairs in suburban area of Surrey, which is on the outskirts of Vancouver. To me, I'm not so anxious because I'm like, okay, I've done it for a while. I have good patience, and I'll get through this. But I'm concerned about new dentists coming out, right? Like they're coming out with huge student loans. Buying practices isn't so easy anymore, right? So it is the atmosphere out there. It is a little strange. So it's just let's wait and see. But meantime, it's on. We keep learning and doing the best we can, and every next day is going to be better than the one before. And as a dentist, I think we owe it to our patients, and that's what we are going to do for now.
So pardon my ignorance, but I have a question about the structure of the dental practice in Canada. And I just want to preface this by saying that truly some of the best dentists I know are Canadian. But I want to ask, because my perception and the perception of, I believe, a lot of American dentists is that the government has much more of a hand or a control, if you will, of your practice than it does in the United States. I think, do you have to participate in a lot more insurance or government programs as a Canadian dentist? Or are you able to have a quote unquote fee for service practice? I've never really understood that. So like I said, pardon my ignorance for asking.
Actually, we are very free in Canada. You don't have to accept any insurance. So what we call it is non-assignment. So non-assignment is where we tell patients, we're not going to deal with your insurance. This is our fee. So the patient pays us, we give them a claim form or an invoice and the receipt, and they can go deal with their insurance. So we can do that. Now, when it comes to Medicare patients that are covered under the provincial dental plan, which is on welfare or low-income families, for those, I don't think assignment works. My office is assignment office, so I don't think non-assignment would work for these patients because, again, coming back to it, if they are on welfare and they are on certain limited income, they probably won't be able to pay the fee out of pocket first and then wait for it to be claimed, right?
Okay.
But government so far actually has been really out of our hair in a way. But this is the first time that we actually are shocked that the government is actually, enforcing that this is the plan. This is how much is going to be covered. For now, they're saying that the dentist can charge copay. I think our fear only is it going to be how they were with the medical services? Now, for physicians, government has been in their business for a very long time in Canada.
Right.
So medical doctors, private practices, there's a limit as to how many patients you're supposed to see a day, what the reimbursement is supposed to be. So there are a lot of rules there. Somehow dental practices have escaped it till this year. So yeah,
not too different than here, it sounds like.
Exactly, not so different than you guys. But I think now with this, and the other thing is, you guys always had to sign with network, right? We never had to sign with network. Yeah. So for us, it's patient has a plan. That's patient's policy, not ours. We have no agreement with their insurance. Yeah. Patient is presenting it to us. We can call and get the breakdown or EOB through our practice software, management software, and say to the patient, this is what your portion is, this is what the insurance is covering, or a communication with the insurance as to why we want to do the crown predetermination by sending x-rays, intraoral scans, or pictures and stuff. But now when this whole plan started, the government actually said that the dentist has to sign a contract with the insurance. And that's where it didn't sit well with the dentist. And so finally, negotiations, once our association started to negotiate with the government and say, listen, our dentists just don't know this. This is like so new, right? Like they have never done this. Why can't we just take it as an insurance like we do the rest of them? And so As of July 1st, the government said, okay, you don't need to sign any contract with Sun Life. Sun Life is the provider of this Canadian dental plan, and say, that's fine. You can just submit the claims electronically like you do for the other insurances. What we are seeing is, I don't know if it is AI or if it is just random, but they are flagging a lot of claims, which usually we have not experienced with other insurances all these years, unless it's a unique code that somebody has built and the insurance goes, well, can you give me an explanation? What is this and why have you done it? And provide, records to show us the need for this. But now, even if you do prophy fluoride in a 12-year-old, they can say, well, why did you do it? Or can you provide, details? How do you provide details about prophy fluoride means, so we can just say, okay, well, poor oral hygiene. Luckily in my office, we scan every patient. So it's kind of super nice. It's like, okay, here you go. You see the plaque and powder, calculus buildup and this and that. But I think that would be something, again, when the dentists are already apprehensive and all this is coming up, it is kind of, making us a little bit more cautious about this plan. But all in all, I think if government works with us and there is not the fear of unknown, and we can just treat it like any other insurance, because Sun Life used to be one of those regular insurances that patients had through their work for extended benefits, I don't think there should be a problem.
Can we talk about the workflow? Because I think a lot of people would be interested in how you're using your intraoral scan, submitting that to insurance. Are you taking a screen capture? Are you sending an entire file? And what does that look like for your team? Everybody's getting a scan. They're coming through hygiene, getting the scan. Ideally, you're scanning dirty, but that has pros and cons too. But I can see the benefit now if I'm trying to get fluoride covered, right? Or oral hygiene instruction or whatever.
I think there's a country song there, Scanning Dirty.
For sure.
Yeah.
In jail. Yeah, in jail.
I'm sorry to
be back. I'm going to go Google that.
I think he wants first rights on that song. Yeah. Okay. So walk me through the workflow of your preventative team, hygiene team, assisting, and then admin submitting claims. How are they capturing that? What's that look like? Because I think a lot of people would be really curious.
Perfect. Sure. So we are I'm a solo practice owner. We have 4 chairs, 2 hygienists, 1 Invisalign ortho chair, and 1 restorative chair. That's how I practice. I am in the office 4 days a week, and other days I have associates that work in the practice. So mainly as soon as the main goal is that every patient should be scanned at least once a year. That's the goal of the practice. And how my team sees it is that as we take bite wings every single year, as we do the pan every 2 to 3 years, it is records. Like if the team understands that it's records, it's easy to accommodate in your workforce. So every new patient gets scanned. Now, you brought up a very good point of do we scan them dirty or do we clean the teeth and scan them, right? Again, it comes to a point where if a patient comes in and you know what, like 2/3 of the tooth is covered with tartar buildup, my hygienist feels there is a huge value in scanning the patient access.
For sure. Right?
Let's just show them, you know what? I know you're anxious. It's judgment-free zone, right? You did not come into seeing the dentist because life happened or you have some dental anxieties, no problem. But you know what? This is what we're seeing in your mouth right now, right? It's all about patient co-discovering with us when we're doing the exam as to what's happening in their mouth, right? So I think that's very valuable. So when the team would do that, but then we would scan them after the fact as well. So we have 4 chairs, 2 scanners. Well, right now we have 3 scanners in the office, 2 5D pluses and 1 Lumina, but it's enough to go around, even though sometimes they struggle. And then I tell the rest of the team, okay, if you don't need a new scan, just pull up the old scan on mytyro.com. So, there are computers right there. Let's do that and let's discuss with the patient. But yeah, so in my practice, every new patient gets scanned. Every patient gets scanned at every other recall exam. If there's a spec exam or an emergency exam, and let's just say I'm busy taking care of another patient, my assistant will quickly scan the patient because, again, it's records, right? Like the assistant will come to you and say, Dr. So-and-so, there's a patient in the chair, upper right molar, should I take a periapical and a bite wing? This is what the patient's saying. You go, okay, go ahead, take it. till, before I get there. Same thing. The assistant goes, it's going to take me 90 seconds to scan. Let me quickly scan the patient as well. And A, the patient is not feeling that they're like just waiting for the dentist to come in. And B, by the time I come in, I have now all the information for me to help make that diagnostics, right? And then we scan for restorative. So it's funny that I got introduced to iTero scanner actually for restorative. In 2014, I wasn't even Invisalign certified. Invisalign or orthodontics wasn't even on my radar yet. I was truly restorative dentist. And I actually got the HD 2.9. Remember that scanner? Any one of you? You had to press a foot pedal to scan
the pedal and the clicking.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. So it's
and
like,
it talks to you, right?
But you know what? The funny thing is, at that time, I thought, oh my God, and 10 years fast forward, and now we have Lumina. I'm just like, it's crazy how much, the evolution has happened in technology with Align. Like they don't cease to amaze me. It's just, it's amazing what they're doing every single day. But coming back to the point of the workflow, sorry, I'm getting distracted.
You're good.
No, I get distracted by this too with technology. Y'all, Elon Musk just caught a rocket ship with 2 mechanical arms.
I guess
I don't know if you all saw that.
Basically, what he did.
But I feel the same way as you do. Like every time we turn our head around, it's like we're doing something else in dentistry I could have never imagined, even 10 years ago.
Right? Exactly. Yeah. And so I think scan is done. I come in and the case presentation starts. That's when my assistant or my hygienist will be, Dr. Randhawa, patient so-and-so, this your age, is here for this, and this is the chief concern, and these are the x-rays, and this is the scan. And so I'll start my extraoral and intraoral exam after greeting the patient, and then I set the patient up. And that's when I say, okay, now let's take a look at the 3D scan of your mouth. And I am just like, so I don't know how many of you know about the Align Oral Health Suite, but that was, I think, ever since that started to come out, like it had different names. It was called a hub at point, 360s, and it's evolved over that limited market release period and development period. And so now, actually, today is the launch of the QR code. Sorry, I keep getting distracted. So you know how there's an iTero scan report? So today, actually, Align launched the QR code to all Align users or iTero and Invisalign providers. So now you can basically have the patient scan the QR code right from the scanner, and they get the entire scan report. So you know how the admin staff used to download the PDF from myitero.com and then email it to the patient as a follow-up from the appointment? Now they can do that right there from the chair with their phone. Means it is amazing. So in my practice, that's what I do. I'll go over tooth health. I love NIRI. So I'll use the NIRI and I'll use the 3D intraoral camera, showing them, any overhanging crowns. Like, sometimes I see all this fun crown and bridge work coming from other countries as well, not North America, but a lot of other countries. And so explaining to the patient, this is why your gingiva is the way it is. This is over contoured crown, any leaking restorations, chipping, interproximal caries, and then we'll move on to the gum health, the correlation between gum health and occlusogram, excessive pressure here, and that's why you're seeing chipping, and that's why you're seeing the inflammation. When patients start to see this, all the tools that we're using on itero.com, and they can really understand, yes, actually that's true. That's when they will fully understand what's happening in them. How many times do you have a patient that's like, and you go, oh, you're chipping your teeth because you're like, no, I'm not doing anything. I'm not grinding my teeth. But then you put that on the itero.com rather than doodling it on a notepad and explaining to them and show the occlusogram. It's amazing how people go, oh, yeah, that makes sense, right? So it's about patient education. And for me, I think it's diagnostics as well, because a lot of time, if everything looks good, but this patient is complaining about one tooth, and you look at the occlusogram and you go, oh, I see, there is an issue on this tooth. So for me, I feel it makes me a better dentist. It makes me see things that I might have missed during my intraoral exam.
So let me jump in real quick here, because we're going to have a lot of listeners who may not be familiar with the iTero platform. And I'd love for them to understand more about it. So you referred to NIRI, near
Yes.
infrared imaging. Can you
Yes.
maybe just explain a little bit more of that add-on to the iTero? Because really, that's a big piece of what the iTero scanner offers. And so you mention it, but I know anyone who's not familiar with the iTero platform won't know what NEARI is. So if you don't mind, just maybe share a little bit about that.
Sure. So NEARI is a near red, infrared imaging. It is non-ionization, so there's no X-ray there. And so what it does is it helps you diagnose any interproximal carious lesion that is above the gingiva. You can't see the caries that's under the crowns or the restorations, but you can see incipient lesions and you can see carious lesions interproximally with NEARI. Now, it was really helpful during the pandemic time. There was a time that we weren't allowed to take intraoral x-rays. And that was really the time that I started to use NEARI. And I'm just like, it's still in your mind, you're still like, no, Bitewing's the gold standard. And oh my God, Jeff, the amount of teeth that when I opened them up and I saw the extension of the caries and I compared it to the NEARI image, it was identical,
Yeah.
buccolingually identical, mesiodistally identical. And it was just like, oh my God, like you could just plan exactly where to take the burr and how to open that tooth. And I actually took pictures because that was when I was first really starting to use NEARI. So
yeah, you can't even do that with a 2D image, right? So even if you get the Bitewing, you still need that additional technology if you really want to be minimally invasive.
Exactly. And even for patient education comes back to that. How often, even for Bitewings with our experienced eyes, sometimes it's like, okay, that's a carious lesion. How are you showing it to the patient? But when you show that white, lesion on the screen, patient can really see it. And the other thing that I really feel, how often do you take periapicals of the incisors or the canines? So this will show you any carious lesion that is starting on the lower incisors, canines, upper incisors, and canines, because most insurances and most times what we do is 4 Bitewings or 2 Bitewings, right? And how often is it that your assistant or hygienist is going to have x-rays that are not going to be overlapped?
Right.
And how often they're going to catch the distal of the second molar and the mesial of the first premolar, right? So with even our best efforts, you don't want to come to the room and tell your assistant to retake the Bitewing and expose your patients to another round of x-rays. So NEARI is integral in my practice. Like my 5D pluses are going, like NEARI is continuously something that we're using. Even during my restorative, like when I'm doing a crown prep, I'm using NEARI. I'm checking, how healthy is the tooth structure on this crown prep now, right? Other thing that you can see is craze lines, enamel craze lines, chipping. It is so easy to see with NEARI, and I really use it even for insurance communication. So I think that is really a practice builder. I have seen so much more interproximal caries that I would have missed otherwise, and it's eye opener. So that is actually an integral part of my practice.
I have a image that I'm going to show in just a second, just so people can see kind of what NEARI does. I also have an image of the Align Oral Health Suite if you want to talk about that a little bit too. But I would agree with everything that you've said. I am a huge NEARI fan. I'm going to go ahead and say this, and I hope the people at Align hear it, that I hope that it is coming on the Lumina, because it's something that we can't live without in our practice. And there's a lot of people that say it's not beneficial, but one of the biggest places it's beneficial for me is that those people that are just averse to radiation,
Yes.
and that's really, really tough. They have an aversion to radiation, and this is no radiation. And so this is just a NEARI image. This is actually the very first patient that I ever scanned utilizing NEARI technology. This was in 2018, maybe, or whenever it came out, 2020, maybe, let's say. Whenever NEARI came out, this was my first NEARI patient. You can see how big of a, eye opener it is to not only us, but to the patient as well. And some of this stuff doesn't show up on radiographs.
No, it doesn't. And that's just the thing, right? Because when initially I started using it, I'm going back and forth. But as I said, the pandemic kind of forced my hand into using Neary more, right? And that after that, we're like, oh my God, look at how much we can use it. Pregnant women, patients that are going through radiation therapy, or cancer survivors, like they don't want every single bite wing matters to them. And how about the little kids' mouths, like 4 or 5-year-olds? How easy is it to take the bite wings? And we take extra oral bite wings, but let's be honest. Even the best machines that we have, imaging systems, they don't give us the clarity from extra oral bite wings. And so Neary in those applications is amazing. And as you just said, Chad, with Lumina being a smaller wand, it's going to be a game changer to diagnose interproximal lesions in these little kids as well. And it's coming. It means obviously restorative is coming. I use Lumina only for restorative right now, and it's as soon as we get the approval, I know it's going to be out there for everybody to use. But it is really an integral part, and that's why so many times, we talk about scanners and we say they are digital impression machines, right? But in my practice, iTero is not just an impression machine. It's like, for me, it's like my little mini-me, like my little partner. It's going to be from diagnostics to patient education to case presentation to case, planning and execution, and then maintenance. So it's really, really, there's so much more to iTero and ADP than really, people might think.
I would love to hear, because, I present on this quite often. I have 2 questions, but the first one is, I would love to hear how you explain to doctors, because the doctors that are listening and the team members that are listening are like, okay, this is more time that we don't have to scan these patients. And, there's always pushback. And so I'd love to hear how you explain to doctors how to make this work to incorporate wellness scanning, and then I'll share what we do in our practice.
Perfect. I tell other doctors, new patient exams should be booked an extra time anyways, right? So in my practice, new patient exams, if they need to be paired up with hygiene appointment or starting of hygiene, it's 1.5 hours. And so again, coming back to that, where if once you have looked inside the patient's mouth and done the extra oral exam, typically, how do you explain to the patient? You're going to still spend that time either going over the x-rays or doodling something on your tray liner or a notebook or something and explaining to the patient what you see inside the mouth. I feel all that time that you're going to spend with the patient is not going to be as valuable or productive as it's going to be going through that scan. Right? So the doctor spends the same amount of time, or maybe actually less time, with the scan as they would without the scan. Now, when it comes to team, the team has to see the value in this. If the team thinks that they are just there to do their job and go back, I don't know. My team members, they're there for a bigger purpose. They feel they're integral in providing good oral health to the patients. They're healthcare providers. It is admin team, it is the clinical staff, which is assistants as well as hygienists. That's why my whole team believes in it, that we are truly digital. Digital is the technology, is the world we live in. Even they understand better. For a hygienist, let's just say, okay, a hygienist has a patient, and the patient's all the time saying, it hurts, oh, it hurts. Wouldn't it be easier for that patient, rather than to stop and apologize every single time, take 2 minutes, scan, and then show to the patient, well, these areas are sensitive because you're super crowded. Even my narrowest Gracie scaler or my piezo cannot get in there because the things are so crowded. It is not me. It's not you. It is the positioning of these teeth. So why don't we wait for Dr. Randhawa when she comes in and ask her, what options do we have so that you don't have to go through this every single time, and your hygiene appointments can be a breeze, right? Patients that are sensitive, fractional lesions, recession, same. So for my hygienists, I tell them, I go, if you want to be superstars, you want your patients to like you, scan the patients. Show off your knowledge to your patients, educate your patients. Your patients are going to be like, oh my God, you are so knowledgeable. I never knew this. And that's one of the things that we get back from our patients is, I have been going to the dentist for 30 years. I never knew so much about my oral health as I have found out in one appointment with you guys.
So I think you just hit on something so big right there, which is that we have completely missed a lot of the advantages of doing orthodontics. Orthodontics is not about just straightening teeth and making teeth pretty. It's about creating a healthier situation. It's about creating a healthier mouth, something that's more cleansable now for the patient. So just what you said right there is probably a brilliant segue to then run like the Invisalign outcome simulator and say, listen, what do you think it would be easier to clean these teeth? Do you think bacteria are more likely to get caught up in this situation or in this situation? Oh, by the way, I think you're going to like the way this looks too. And to be able to do that in real time, talk about how that has maybe brought a new revenue stream into your practice, because I know you do a lot of Invisalign.
Yes. Actually, another amazing thing happening today is that MTS got launched today to everybody as well. So we have Invisalign Outcome Simulator Pro. Now, added on to that is multiple treatment simulation, which is called MTS. So that just got open to everybody, all Align users, iTero users. So with this, what we do is you take Invisalign Practice app, you take a wide smile picture of your patient. And this is something like in your, again, as Chad had said before, how do you get, most doctors will say, how do I get my staff to do that, right? So for scanning and pictures, I feel it's a responsibility that needs to be spread through the whole practice. So everybody in your practice needs to know that they are coming there to change lives, one smile at a time, right? So they're responsible for that. So for me, I ask my admin team, if you guys have the time, the new patient comes in, just add them on the Invisalign Practice app and take the white smile picture, external pictures. Anybody can do that. It's that app is super intuitive, super easy to use. And then by the time the clinical team takes the patient in, it's already, the pictures are already there and they do the scan. And so when Align Oral Health Suite is all up and running and I come in, I easily go to the simulation. And so now with the new multiple treatment simulator, what you would do is you would have 3 pictures, 3 comparisons side by side. You'll have the initial in-face visualization of the present occlusion, malocclusion, or position of the teeth. You'll have the Invisalign outcome simulation with the in-face visualization, and then you will have something like Invisalign Smile Architect option. If you were to, let's just say, patient has peg laterals and you want to restore that, or patient has chipped teeth or broken teeth and you want to restore that, or missing teeth. So you can use that as well. So, and this is where, exactly as you said, Jeff, patient comes in, you have crowding. And this has happened because, there is either, jaw size and tooth size discrepancy, or let's just say missing teeth or something's going on. And so that's why you have chipping going on. That's why you have recession going on. That's why it is so sensitive to, get your cleanings done. And that's why it's so hard for you to floss, because things are super tight. Like that floss is now going in there. So if we were to put these teeth in the right position, this is how your teeth would look like. And how easy would it be for you to, like I always tell patients, I go, if you're looking at crowding, your brush is going whichever teeth are outside and missing the teeth that are inwards. And when you go to the reverse side, it's the opposite. So regardless, you're missing that tooth either from the buccal side or the lingual side till you correct and line up those teeth, right? So that is when you can show those patients that this is what it would look like in your mouth if we were to do orthodontics. And then if we needed restorative and we did pre-orthodontics and then we did restorative, this is what the smile would look like. I think that is an amazing patient education, tool that you can use right there. Hygienist can use it, assistant can use it, dentist can use it. It opens the patient's eyes, because so many times patients don't even know that they have those options available to them. Right?
So I couldn't agree with everything that you're saying. I think there are so many tools. Align is truly they are the kings of innovation as far as I'm concerned in this space. You've talked about so many things that you use the scanner for, but I want to switch gears just a little bit. Mm-hmm. And I want to ask you just a kind of a trick question. What is the first thing that comes to mind when I mention the word Lumina to you?
To me, seriously, yeah. It is the expanders and it's dentures. It's so funny that I actually, this is the first thing that when I tried it on, tried Lumina earlier this year. I have a lot of young kids in my practice and a lot of high arch, high wall palates, right? And with the 5D Plus, even though my team is amazing, it is a challenge sometimes to grab those little, right? And so when we looked at Lumina, I was like, oh my God, those kitties are going to have all those Invisalign palatal expanders or Hyrexes or Aramis or whatever I need to do there. And then the other area where, because the thing is, I love 5D Plus. I've loved all scanners that iTero has come with, and we have never had issues. Obviously, there's always a wish list. And when Align calls me and says, hey doc, how are you liking it? What can we do better? Obviously, there's always going to be a wish list, and they listen and they give it to us. So that's amazing. But with Lumina, also dentures, I was like, this is amazing. The integral part of that denture is so hard, like especially when you have those buccal flanges going inwards. It's so hard to take the scanner and kind of scan those parts in. And I feel for anybody that does dentures or partial dentures, Lumina is going to be, oh my God, it is amazing. It's amazing for gaggers. It's amazing. It's like, I loved my Element. I love my Element 2. I love my 5D Plus, everything for restorative. In-office nil. I do 3D printing. I do everything. We've never had problems with restorative, at all. But I think Lumina for me, it's just like, that's where it's going to be like, now there's nothing that you can't scan. If a team member tells you, I'm not getting a scan, something's not right, because Lumina kind of, covers everything.
So I'm kind of shocked at your answers, but I get it. I don't do expanders on kids. Praise Jesus. I'm very thankful for that.
Wait, no, have you seen the Invisalign expander now?
Yeah.
It's pretty slick. It is pretty slick. Yeah.
That's great. Not going to happen in my practice. Has nothing to do with Invisalign or anything, but it's not going to happen in my practice. However, I think that you said dentures, but the real thing that people need to understand is capture speed, image quality. And, the thing is like we toggle back and forth because we have Illumina and we have 5D Plus. And you go back to the 5D Plus and you're like, oh my God. I mean, even if you have 2 implant scan bodies on 29 and 31 in an edentulous space, you want to pull your freaking hair out trying to get from 29 to 31 sometimes. Whereas with the Lumina, it's got a larger, deeper, more accurate and, field of view, if you will. I mean, I'm not going to say that it's larger because I don't know that for a fact. I do know that it's deeper, but as far as larger is concerned, it's going to grab stuff just because of the capture mechanism. And when you're talking about dentures, you can't fathom that until you've actually used it. But the image quality, I mean, the raw image as you're capturing it, especially for those of us that might be doing some restorative in the LMR, the image quality is different when you're capturing it. But once it stitches everything together, oh my gosh, it is the most accurate color that I've ever seen. I think it's just lights out, the best scanner I've ever touched. And I think it's going to make great waves. And so I'm really excited about it, and as you are, and I will take your word that expanders are just fantastic.
Forget expanders, partial dentures, anything you need to touch
Absolutely.
with, it's like crazy. Like it just changed my world. Yeah,
absolutely. It really
getting
does.
around those 4 eyes on the mandible, like it's so easy. But as you said, Chad, I think it is wider because of the angulation of the cameras. I think you do get quite a bit. Like, it's almost like you're across the palette, you can see what's going on the other side.
Well,
right?
I just had to catch myself because I know that we've talked about depth, and I know that that's very well documented. But we didn't really talk about width, and so I didn't want to misspeak because I don't know. I mean, it's not wider from a wand perspective, but I do think that the field of capture is wider, or more, maybe more capable would be the word due to the camera angulation.
Yeah. Probably,
you know what? We don't need to say any of this. Ask some of the assistants that are capturing the scans and hygienists, and
try and take it away from a hygienist.
Yeah, exactly.
But another thing that I wanted us to both to be cognizant of and mention, because now we can, and I think you've probably been involved in these conversations too. The white paper was not released. It has since been released that the NIRI is 96% as effective as bite wing radiographs. Yeah. Which is a huge acknowledgement. And, Align knew that for a long time, but they had to validate it. And I was really glad when we could actually use those statistics, because it's very powerful when you look at that white paper and read what NIRI does. So I just wanted to make mention of that before we go. So,
right.
And
bite wings, 60% of the time, it works every time.
Yeah. Well, and that's the thing. Okay. So we were talking about AI earlier.
Yes.
And I don't know if you all use AI in your practice, but if a bite wing's overlapped, you're going to get an erroneous AI reading 99% of the time. And so it really, you got to be cognizant of that. But if you have NIRI, you can come back in and validate it with NIRI a lot of times too. So.
And that's just it, right? Yeah. And again, the thing of, I can go all night about iTero, but the thing is, it's even if your iTero scanners are busy, you can always pull that up on, I take screenshots every time I'm going through this. I'm taking screenshots wherever I'm seeing something, and you can always pull it up when you're doing restorations on iTero.com and pull up those images and, exactly check again that what I'm seeing on the bite wing, what I'm seeing in the patient's mouth, and reconfirm what NIRI has shown you, right? So there is just so much opportunity there. You know what? It's just, as I said, I'm a fan. Like, I was impressed with it. HD 2.9, and now we're talking about Lumina and NIRI, and there's so much to come. Like when you chat, you're talking about AI. It's coming, right? Mm-hmm. It's just matter of time. And so I feel there is so much more coming. And so the sooner we get used to the features that iTero and ADP has to offer, then when the new additions come, it is super easy to adopt them in the practice, and the team can get on board easily. If we are too late and we're very late adopters, and the technology is so advanced by then, and there's so much to use, it is going to be a little bit tough to get your head around that. And as I say, let's just join as soon as we can and get this going in the teams and the offices.
Yeah, Lovedeep, I think you summarized that beautifully to say it's really an opportunity. And, I say that there have really been 3 game changers in dentistry as far as how we practice and our ability not just to be more efficient in practice, but to do so while making patient care way better and make education easier. And one of those goes back to cone beam CT, being able to have that kind of technology for diagnosis. But the second is intraoral scanning, and the abilities and the diagnostic capabilities and the educational opportunities. So we've unfortunately run out of time. But honestly, we could have probably talked about this for another 2 hours. I apologize. Jennifer actually had a web outage at kind of crazy. So she just dropped off.
Cool. Now the web outage. This is just, she's not having a good luck right now.
Yeah. So she apologizes for not being able to finish the show. She's been watching us through her cell, but couldn't really chime in. So anyway, thank you for being with us. It was so nice talking with you, and we would love to have you back on the show sometime whenever you can do it, because I could talk to you about this forever. Yeah. So I'm going to let Chad close us out, but Lovedeep, so nice seeing you, and thanks.
Thank you so much.
do something different on closing out. First of all, it was great to have you, but I'm going to bring a few things together here as we close. Do you all know this date in history, October the 23rd? In 2001, the first iPod was released, and it was earth-shattering because in 2001, they had a device that could hold 1,000 songs, right? Can you believe how far we've come? So when I think of that, I think, in 2006, the first iPhone was released. And so Steve Jobs had this goal in mind of bringing together an iPod, an internet device, and a phone and putting it all in one. Well, there's a lot of similarities to dentistry, and Invisalign and iTero have had the same thing. About the same time that the iPod was released, there was this small company in Israel called Cadent that was launching a intraoral scanner, which nobody knew what this thing would do. In 2011, they joined forces with Invisalign and became the iTero scan. Well, I mean, it was always Cadent iTero, and then they became part of Invisalign, and everybody knew of it as the Invisalign scanner. But if we think of it as the Invisalign scanner, we're missing so much because there's so many capabilities. And the people at Align, there's a lot of similarities between them and Steve Jobs, because I don't think we ever imagined that we'd be as far as we are today. I always say that technology is disjointed, but as time goes on, it's becoming more and more jointed. And I sat in on a meeting in 2015, I believe, where we talked about using a black and white scanner for wellness scans, which they didn't call them wellness scans. They talked about using them in the hygiene department, and we thought they were crazy. Here we are in 2024, looking at all the things that we can do with this scanner. That's so much more than restorative, so much more than Invisalign. And it's all in that wellness scan. So that's where we need to start, is we all need to start with wellness scans. I know you're going to get pushback from your team. Start with 1 a day, go to 2 a day, go to 3 a day. And if you push a little bit, initially you're going to get pushback, but then you're just going to get everybody realizing the value in those scans. And that's where it all begins. It begins with a good scan. So thank you so much for being here, Lovedeep. I think we realized how deep your love is for iTero and Invisalign.
You couldn't let it go.
You couldn't let it go. Anyhow, it was a great show, and we would love to have you back. I mean, we went over, but that's okay, because it was something that we're all very, very passionate about. So I hope that we meet again, and we would definitely love to have you back. So thank you so much.
Anytime, guys. Thank you so much. You guys are awesome. And, I'm so glad and so humbled that, you guys spend this time with me. Anytime you guys need me to come back, just call me. Let me know. You know where I am. Come to Vancouver. Hope I see some of you at the Pacific Dental Conference in March. I'm actually giving a talk there as well. But thank you so much. Thank you so much. Amazing gift. Very informative. Good night.
Thank you.
And for everyone out there, good night. And thanks, Align iTero, for sponsoring this show tonight.
And sorry, Brian didn't pay the internet bill, JB.
Yeah.
Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Good night. Thank you so much.
And that wraps up another podcast for Dentists in the Know. On behalf of Dr. Jennifer Bell, Dr. Chad Duplantis, and myself, remember that we've got a great profession, so let's make it a great day, Dinks.